Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts College Football Podcast, your ticket to all things college football. Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? Join us as we talk college football from the national championship to college rivalries to bowl games to the Heisman Trophy to which conference is the best. We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC College Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Danielle Clark. How's everyone's day going? It is a lovely Friday over here. I'm currently quarantined in San Diego, California at my parents' house. It's been a pretty chill morning, I guess. It's Friday morning, about 10 a.m. And let's just give a little brief life update for y'all. We have been training our little Siberian Husky puppy like crazy. She is the sweetest little thing, but she requires a lot of training that honestly wouldn't expect. We have 4 Siberian Huskies, so I feel like we should have known this, but we've been training her a lot. She is really into digging up random pieces of wood, like mulch that our gardeners put down. She really loves taking her toys outside and burying them in really deep holes that then we have to dig up with a shovel. It's really fun stuff. So we are training the puppy like crazy. Quarantine is still going on. I hope you are all staying safe and healthy. I know it is a really tough time for all of us out there. I know personally, for me as a college student, I don't know if I'm going back in the fall, and it's almost the end of July. So we have that to worry about, but I hope you guys are all wearing masks, practicing social distancing, staying safe. Your health is the number one priority. I hope your mental health is doing okay. It is really just an uncertain time, and given everything going on, I know San Diego is starting to shut down again. I know LA is about to go on full lockdown as well, and it's just a very scary time for all of us out here. But I just want to say I hope you guys are all doing okay out there, and let's get on with the show. We have such an exciting show today for you all. We are talking all things college football, obviously, because this is a college football podcast brought to you by GSMC. So let's go over a brief little rundown. Today I will be covering the coronavirus updates. We have so much to go over. Feels like every 10 minutes there is a new update on coronavirus and college football, spring college football potentially. I'll give my thoughts on that. And I just want to say, if anything seems out of date, there is literally new news coming in every single day. If I could put like a breaking news buzzer in, I would, but just know that when this goes up, there might be a little outdated stuff, and that is okay. Hopefully not too much outdated. But yes, so we'll be going over all the coronavirus updates, conference only play, my thoughts on that, how that's going to work. I definitely have opinions on that. And I want to also touch on coaches weighing in and how they're affecting all of it. We go over Harbaugh, Saban, Dabo Swinney, the whole shebang, and also the monetary value of college football, because I think that a often looked over topic in college football is the monetary value of the season and how no season would affect everyone. It's pretty crazy. And then I'll be giving my final 4 for the college football playoffs and why I'm leaving 2 out of the 5 power conferences completely out of the playoffs. Stick around for that. And lastly, we're ending it off with a overrated concession foods top 10 of the week and what I would choose to replace them with. And I just want to say, guys, this list is pretty controversial, so feel free to DM me and we can talk about it. I definitely have opinions on it. I ran it past a few people in my life and all of them disagreed with me. All of them had opinions. So it's a pretty fun one today, everybody. But with that, let's get on into it. Okay, welcome back, everybody. So today, let's go over the first topic. We're looking at coronavirus in college football specifically. Let's give some little statistics, kind of like a little life look at the world, if you will, right now with coronavirus. So rates are climbing. California has hit 11,000 cases in one day. That's absolutely crazy. Like I said, I really hope everybody is staying safe. I know for Colorado specifically, I'm a student at the University of Colorado, Go Buffs. They are now mandating an all mandatory statewide mask, which I feel like we should have had for a while, but that's just my opinion. And states are shutting down again. It's honestly not looking good. As a college student, I don't feel comfortable going back to school, if we're being completely honest here. But that is another topic for another day. On to football, our favorite topic. It's what we're all here to talk about. No one wants to hear me talk about my thoughts on the pandemic and me going back to school because no one cares about that. I am just like every other college student. But let's get on into it. So recently, a few days ago, ESPN released a report discussing how there will be conference-only play for the Pac-12 and Big Ten. Both of these conferences decided that specifically, and they will not be playing outside of their conference. So that means that USC will not be playing Alabama. Texas will not be playing Notre Dame, vice versa. Obviously, the Big 12, SEC, and ACC have not come out with their decisions on this yet, but they plan to follow suit. And I believe that it would be best if they followed suit. Just because safety, in all honesty, I think that this is going to be such a crazy college football season if it even happens. I mean, as someone who grew up rooting for Stanford, it's going to be so weird not having the Stanford Notre Dame game. But we have to do what is best for our country, obviously. But yeah, so the Pac-12 and Big Ten are going to be conference models only for the fall. They will not be playing outside of their conference. And what about Notre Dame? Everyone is wondering about Notre Dame. Only team not in a conference. Many of their opponents like Wisconsin, USC, and Stanford, they have all lost so far. So what is their best option, I would say? Their best option is to replace these games with ACC opponents. But if the ACC goes conference only, what's going to happen? Notre Dame's at risk of losing up to 6 of their games so far, which is absolutely crazy. And that gets into the whole discussion about a shortened season and how many games we want to play. And that is a discussion for another day. But conference only, what do we think? I think that it is a good idea in hindsight. I think that obviously we want college football to happen. A fall without college football just feels wrong. It feels like something is being stripped away from us. And we as sports fans have already had so much stripped away from us during this pandemic. I mean, no basketball, no football. No football, no baseball, no hockey, just all, especially during the summertime, sports are at an all-time high. It's what you live for. Summer baseball is one of my favorite things, and we've had that taken away from us. So on top of that, no one wants college football taken away from us. I can look at this as a college student perspective, and college football games are literally the reason I chose to go to a big Pac-12 school. I only looked at big football schools because that is something I wanted. That's something that's so important to me. And I have to say, I am so happy I made that decision because college football truly is my favorite time of year. There's no other year I enjoy more than tailgating, going to the games. It's the best. And so as someone who grew up with college football, I mean, my family has always been college football over NFL. Personally, I feel like that is kind of how some people are, I guess. You can weigh in with your opinions. But we grew up with college football. That was really our thing. I mean, every Saturday, my dad is a big golfer, never plays golf on Saturday during the fall because he nails his butt on the couch at 10 a.m. for Pacific Coast kickoff times and does not leave until 9 p.m. when the big game is over of the day. We are big college football fans. Even my sister loves college football. My grandpa comes over. It is a huge thing. So imagining the world without college football in the fall is so scary to think about. And so if having college football means conference only play, then that is okay. And I can look at the Pac-12, for example, and really we're not hugely affected by it. We've never been we don't play out of our conferences very much. There's usually 2 to 3 games per season that a team plays out of conference. And so we would be losing 2 to 3 games. But again, you look at Notre Dame or the SEC. I look at Alabama, who always has a big game kickoff against an opponent outside of their conference. What are they going to do about that? It's absolutely crazy. I mean, I'll keep saying this. 6 months ago, if you had been told on the street by a random stranger that in 6 months the uncertainty of college football combined with the uncertainty of the world would even be a possibility, you would have laughed in their face and been like, there's no way. There is no way we won't have college football. But here we are, all because of a pandemic. So yes. Anyways, sorry for my little ramble there. Back to it. So like I said, Notre Dame. Only team not in a conference, best option to replace those with ACC opponents. But we have to look at the big games that have already been lost. USC versus Alabama, week 1. I would have loved to see these two classic powerhouses. As someone who grew up on the West Coast, it was part of I have to say, my mom did go to a Pac-12 school as well, and I go to a Pac-12 school. So I have been breaded just not like USC. They are a great school, but that's how I was raised. But I was looking forward to the USC-Alabama game. I was getting tickets to it. I was so excited. I mean, when you think of old house college football from the 90s, early 2000s, I think of USC and Alabama, two powerhouses of college football. And that would have been a classic. And then we lose Oregon, Ohio State. Wow. I mean, we'll get into Oregon and Ohio State later in the show, but wow, what a game that would have been. I mean, the defense versus that offense with the new quarterback, just so exciting to see. Everyone was looking forward to that. And then we lose Michigan versus Washington. University of Michigan versus Washington. Can you imagine Harbaugh in Seattle at rainy Husky Stadium in his khakis with that little game face on? That would have been classic. Such a good game. And we have to look at BYU. They could lose up to 5 games if their schedule. They could lose up to 5 games off their schedule if the rest of the conferences move to conference play only. Think about that. I mean, the teams that are losing up to 5 to 6 games, I mean, at that point, are they even going to have a season? You have to look at this. It's just so crazy to think about. And I want to say that I got all this info from an ESPN article. So I want to give all my thanks to ESPN. Obviously not all my thanks, but you know what I mean. Thank you for ESPN for supplying this information. And let's get on to bowl season. Okay, so like I said, college football in the fall is literally the bread and butter of my family. It is what I live for. And I'm sure all of you listening can relate to this. Bowl season is a holiday. It happens during the holidays, obviously. It starts around Thanksgiving, ends around New Year's. But it is a holiday in itself. When I think of bowl season, I don't think of Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's. I think of bowl season. How many times can I say bowl season? But it's just, there's something so magical about it. And I'm sure all of you listening can relate to that. It's like there's something in the air when you're watching a bowl game. Even if it's 2 teams you have never heard of, 2 teams you've never watched, the Popeyes Bowl or something. There's just something so special about sitting on the couch for 3 hours and just losing your mind to a football game. It's the best feeling. And on Christmas morning, after you open your presents up, or if you're Jewish, after you celebrate Hanukkah, and you just sit down and watch a bowl game, best feeling. Or New Year's, oh gosh, the New Year's games, something special. Waking up on New Year's Day, knowing that you have 6 games to look forward to. 6? Might be wrong on that. But knowing that you have you have the Rose Bowl, the Rose Bowl. I have been lucky enough to go to the Rose Bowl once, and I can just say that is the most, wow. When you think of college football, I think of the Rose Bowl. But anyways, back to bowl season. The whole concept of bowl season is so crazy because if we're looking at conference-only play, how is that going to translate to a bowl season where the whole concept of bowl season is all these different teams playing each other based on rankings and seedings and opponents and all these analytics that go into it? And if we don't have a bowl season, what's going to happen? So, college football executive director Bill Hancock has told ESPN in an interview that the playoffs will be ready for whatever comes down. What does he mean by that? Well, reading between the lines, he means that if college football happens this fall, there's going to be a bowl season. It will probably not be a traditional bowl season. There will be less games played, I assume. I assume that the smaller bowl games might not happen out of safety precautions. Maybe there will be no fans there. Personally, I think if a college football happens, we can pull for bowl season if we do it in a similar style to the NBA bubble. So what is the NBA bubble? I'm going to give you a quick little rundown in case you're unfamiliar. Basically, when the NBA shut down in early March, there was the season was almost going to start the playoffs. We were almost at the end. And so it came back in early July, and there's an NBA bubble. And when you think of bubble, literally think of like, do you remember in like kindergarten or early elementary school when you would have a bubble, you would have like a line, and the kids would literally hold out their arms in a circle and be like, you pop my bubble. Maybe that was just my school. Maybe I just did that. But think about it like that. There's literally a bubble, and they can't leave this giant bubble. So teams were invited to the bubble early July for training, and starts July 30th, July 31st. They're staying at Disney World, which, I mean, if you're going to be stuck anywhere, I guess Disney World's a pretty nice place to be stuck in Florida. But they are staying in hotels, they are locked down, and they cannot cross certain boundaries. So I'm sure you've heard reports of NBA players crossing boundaries to go get their Postmates and having to quarantine for 8 days. It's very serious. They're taking all precautions necessary, which I think if we're going to have an NBA season, this is the way we have to do it. But we're not talking about the NBA here. And they quite literally stay in a bubble. And so if college football did that, what would it look like? I believe, this is my personal opinion on how college football could pull off a bubble system for bowl games. And when I'm thinking of the bowl games, I'm thinking of the college football playoffs. I'm thinking of the Big Six. I am not taking into account the smaller bowl games. I'm sure there could be a similar protocol for this. I'm sure, honestly, for smaller bowl games, something very similar. But let's get on into it. So you would find one stadium that would be willing to host the 4 teams for 2 weeks. AT&T, Rose Bowl, one of the big ones, because you have to house these 4 teams. And all 4 teams are quarantined 2 weeks prior. So essentially, their season ends, and they go in quarantine in these hotels. And, they do not leave the hotel except for practice and games. And no fans in the stand, which is just such a crazy feeling, because from a fan's perspective, I mean, I can't imagine football without the fans. I mean, I can't imagine any sport without fans. I look at hockey. Whenever I go to a live hockey game, the best feeling is being in the stands. I mean, football, it's the same way. The fans create this atmosphere. And so I just imagine these players who, I mean, I know a few people on the Colorado Buffaloes football team, and I was talking to them about this. And they're all just like, this is so crazy. Like, we can't imagine playing a game, an intense game against one of our rivals, and having dead silent except for, like, the sound of our pads hitting each other. It's just crazy. But if we want to pull off a bowl season, no fans. If this is also, you have to take into account what the world is going to look like in 4 to 5 months. Will we still be in the same spot? Will we have a vaccine? Where will we be? Will we be in a bigger lockdown? Will we hit a second wave? We don't know. So we have to think about that in perspective. But this strategy I have formed is on the assumption that the world is going to stay in a spot kind of where it is, where things are kind of open, things kind of aren't. It's kind of take social distancing seriously, wear a mask, but we have to move on with life at some point, which is how many people are viewing the situation right now. And it might get a little better, it might get a little worse, but it's not going to get drastically worse. Because if it goes back to how it was in early March, or when the whole world kind of shut down, it's not realistic to have a bowl season, if we're being completely honest. But no fans in the stands, like I said, and there would be limited camera crews. Gosh, this is just such a crazy feeling. I mean, I can't imagine being one of the players on Alabama or Ohio State and being so excited, working all season to get to this point. I mean, part of living to be an athlete is the fans. I was a competitive figure skater for 12 years, and competitive figure skating has nowhere near the same fan atmosphere as a college football game. But even getting on the ice and having those faces look at you and cheer you on when you complete a hard jump, I mean, that is what you live for as an athlete. And so just, gosh, I can't imagine doing anything else. I mean, gosh, it's so mind-boggling. I mean, like I keep saying, if you had told someone 6 months ago we would be considering even having a college football season, they probably would have looked at you and been like, no, you're crazy. There's no way. Like, you're lying. And I mean, that's how I felt. I'm sure many people are in the same way. When we first started hearing about the coronavirus, we were all skeptical. I mean, a lot of my friends went abroad in the winter, and they left, and I was like, see you in 6 months. And then 2 months later, they're like, no, we're being sent home. I mean, it's just so crazy to think about. We are living through a pandemic, and the way that sports are being affected by all this is just astronomical. I mean, I think about it from a college perspective, obviously, but I have to look at it from a college football perspective. And I even just look at my outline here and just the fact that BYU could lose up to 5 games off their schedule if the rest of their conference moved to conference-only play. I mean, that's crazy to me. And conference-only play is truly the only way, I believe, that if we have a college football season, we can go on. And even then, is that the safest option? Who knows? I mean, is football the safest sport to play right now? Who knows? We have to leave that up to the medical experts. From a fan's perspective, we want college football. And if that means a conference-only play, then we will do it. And we will deal with that. But for all you listening out there, I'm sure your alma mater has that one rival that's out of conference. I mean, for Colorado, it's CSU. For Stanford, it's Notre Dame. The list goes on and on and on. I mean, just thinking about not being able to play those and the option of not having fans in the stadium at schools is just so crazy to think about. And how players would quarantine, I mean, how they even play against other teams. I was talking to one of my friends on the Colorado football team a few days ago, and they were talking about the option of having to quarantine completely, not even go to class, do everything from their hotels. And the only time they would see other people outside of their team was literally when they would be playing the other opponents. I mean, can you imagine that? Just so crazy to think about. And obviously, again, all of this assumption that college football is going to happen, it's not an assumption. It is what they're planning for. They are planning to have a college football team in whatever way they can. And if that means conference-only play, losing games, I'm sure there will be a shortened schedule. I think that we would be silly to think that we would have a completely normal college football season under what normal is in the world right now. I think a shortened season is the only way to go if we're going to have this conference-only play, shortened season, and a shortened bowl season. Not as many bowl games. I think that bowl games are just so incredibly important, but they are also, we have to realize, there's so much that could go wrong with it. And I feel like I'm sounding like I don't want college football. That is not true. I want college football so badly. That is all I want. But I have to understand from a health perspective that there is so much that's going to happen, even in the next week. We heard there's a vaccine in the works. That's great. But in the next week, what could happen? I mean, so much could go wrong. So much could change. I mean, we hear about all these players from the Texas Longhorns and Oklahoma, how they've tested positive and quarantine. And just, it's so much. And also we have to realize these kids are 19, 20 years old. They're barely adults, legally adults. And so the fact that we're putting all this pressure on them to perform a college football season, given a pandemic, when there's so much anxiety and uncertainty and fear in the world, it's just so much to ask. And so I want to give my hats off to all players who are considering playing right now, because that is such a big ask and that is so much. Sorry, lost my breath there for a second. But I want to wrap up this segment by going over my quick talking points. Keep repeating it. Conference only play, really the only way it could happen. College football, it would look like something like this. 4 teams in 1 stadium. And I mean, that is kind of weird, but you think about the way we could decorate it with different colors and really make it feel like as much of a normal bowl game as possible. Obviously, no fans in the stands or very limited fans, like close family members. That's a weird concept to think about. I'm sure ratings would skyrocket for these games, obviously, because we are deprived of sports right now. We want anything. My tennis coach the other day was telling me he was watching Japanese baseball at 2 a.m. We want anything for sports. We need sports to come back, everybody. And part of going with sports is the monetary aspect of it, which is what we will get into in the next segment. So stay tuned. Coming up, I will be talking about the monetary aspects of college football and some of the most notable coaches weighing in on what is going on.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
We're back. Hope you guys enjoyed that little commercial break brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. So, like I briefly previewed in our last segment, we're going to be getting into coaches weighing in. Coaches make up such a huge part of this decision. Obviously, we can go into so many factors, but let's start with the obvious. Many college coaches are in the 65 plus demographic, which is the age group where the CDC says 8 out of 10 deaths due to COVID-19 come from. So let alone there, that's a very scary thought if we're being honest. I mean, let's just look at the facts. So we have Nick Saban from Alabama, Mac Brown from North Carolina, I'm probably pronouncing this wrong, Cutcliffe from Duke, Herm Edwards from Arizona State, and Les Miles from Kansas. That is Power 5 coaches 65 and older. This list comes from Sports Illustrated, I want to say. So we have that, and we can look at the health aspects. We can look at all that's going into this, and I'm sure the coaches want to play. There's no question about that. There's not been any reports of coaches not wanting to play, wanting to sit out the season. There's obviously been speculation or whatever, but many coaches, as you will hear, believe that, in all honesty, coronavirus is something our country has to live with. We have to adapt to it, and we are adapting. So let's hear what Lincoln Riley had to say. He said that Lincoln Riley is confident there will be a season. I just can't imagine a scenario where we don't explore every option to play. Whether it's something to do in the fall, whether it's a shortened season, whether it's spring, there's nothing we should take off the table. Regardless of what we have to do, I don't think there's anything we can work around and we can't adjust and just make work in order to play college football. We all have to do our part on that, he said in an interview. Now, it's recently come out that Oklahoma football program has had 14 players test positive for coronavirus. That's kind of scary to think about, in all honesty. You can look at different regions of the country as well. Obviously, different regions are handling it differently. Part of the reason the SEC is actually in turmoil for their season, according to a report, is because the South is in the red zone for coronavirus. They are not doing well right now in terms of social distancing and safety, and that is part of the reason the SEC's season is in full disarray. Now, University of Alabama's Nick Saban was a part of official University of Alabama PSA to practice social distancing, which we snap for, we appreciate. Please practice social distancing. I don't know how many times I can say that in relation to coronavirus. If you want a college football season to happen, please practice social distancing. Wear your mask, okay? I'm not going to get too much into it because there's just not much to say. Wear a mask, practice social distancing. You can see people. Just do it safely, do it wisely, think about the health of others. So props to Nick Saban for being a part of that PSA. And let's get on to Michigan's Jim Harbaugh. Fun fact about Jim Harbaugh, actually. My mom, when she went to Stanford when he was the coach there, and ever since then, she's just adored Jim Harbaugh. So now she's kind of a Michigan fan because of him. So we, in this house, we like Jim Harbaugh. He says COVID is part of our society. Harbaugh told reporters via Oregon saying of the Detroit Free Press. It wasn't caused by football or caused by sports. There's no explicit view right now that I'm aware of that sports is going to make that worse. It's part of our society. We are going to have to deal with it. Now, obviously, you can take that with what you will. I mean, the reason the NBA shut down is because one of the players tested positive for coronavirus, and so it kind of spread throughout the league. But coronavirus wasn't caused by sports. It was not caused by football happening or basketball happening. And I agree with Jim Harbaugh. COVID is a part of our society. I mean, this is not going away. You can look at economically, socially, things are not going to be back to quote-unquote normal for a very long time. And that's something, as a world, we have to deal with. And it's really scary to think about, but I think Harbaugh is correct here. It wasn't caused by football or caused by sports, as he says. We have to deal with it, and we have to learn to adapt and adjust. This whole period we're going through of uncertainty is about adapting and adjusting. And we're going to have to adapt to football. I'm sure news will come out in the next few weeks as we inch closer to a potential college football season about different regulations we can have, different ways we can play, safety measures, precautions. I've heard rumors about coaches wearing masks while they coach. And I've heard rumors about quarantining. Like I said, I mean, we're going to have to deal with this in any way we can. And it's something we just live with now. I mean, I don't even think about wearing a mask anymore, which if you had told anyone 6 months ago, you will have to wear a mask every time you go somewhere in public, that would have been a weird thought. I go for a run and I wear a mask while I run. I mean, who would have ever thought about that? And so I think that what I'm trying to say is we're just dealing with this in our world right now. It's scary. It's uncertain, and Harbaugh's correct. And we can't put the world on hold. The world went on hold, and it sucked in so many different ways. Economically, socially, mentally. You can look at yourself individually and see how when the world kind of went on hold when all this went down in the beginning of March to now, I mean, we are in such a different place, but going on hold was a really scary thing. Not leaving your house for 2 weeks, really scary. And I'm not going to get into this, but the point is the world cannot continue to be put on hold. And I believe Harbaugh is correct. And with that, there's been many options for what happens if a college football season doesn't happen in the fall. Where do we go? Do we even have college football this year? And the option of spring football. So you've all heard of spring games. Spring games happen once a year, kind of like a showcase, if you will, for the teams to show off different players. And here's what Notre Dame Athletic Director Jack Swarbrick had to say about a spring season. I think we have to be prepared to do it, and I think that it should be viewed as a viable option. We're going to learn so much from the NBA and NHL and Major League Baseball in the next few weeks. And if, for example, these efforts go poorly, it's probably going to be a really critical data point for us, and we'll argue for delay. If that occurs, I think we're going to have to be open for the spring, he told to ESPN. So he's saying prepare for all options, which I happen to agree with. I mean, we can't just sit here and be pessimistic and think, well, if it doesn't happen in the fall, it's not happening in general. We're canceling the 2020/2021 season because that's not a viable option. I mean, Rose Bowl kicks off on Memorial Day instead of New Year's Day. That just feels weird to say because, like I said earlier, part of the fun of the Rose Bowl and the New Year's Day games is just like sitting down on New Year's Day and knowing you are just going to watch football all day. And that's just the best feeling. But obviously, if it can't happen in the fall, we have to adjust because we want college football. It would be a weird feeling in the spring, but we want it. I want it, okay? From my selfish perspective, I want college football. And I'm sure all of you listening do as well. So, what will happen? It comes down to money. And the monetary aspect of college football is one that is often not talked about, not thought about, but is such a big factor of college football. And I think that sometimes it's hard to admit that because when I was younger, I wanted to see college football as this pure sport, as wholesome, for the players. But in reality, college football is a billion-dollar industry run by the NCAA and universities. And the money lost from a no college football season cannot be ignored. So, in an article written by Mark Schlabach and Paula Levine back on May 21st, they detailed some very crucial points about the fall season of not just football and sports in general, but we're going to look at football specifically. So the loss of a college football season could cost universities and the NCAA $4 billion. $4 billion. Think about that for a second. Oh my gosh. That looks at ad revenue, ticket sales, concession sales, advertisers, all these different factors that you don't even think about. I mean, have you ever sat down and thought about all the ways that college football makes money? Because I haven't. I most certainly haven't. I mean, I look at when I buy a bag of kettle corn at a football game, how that is affecting the NCAA, but 20,000 people buying a bag of kettle corn, oh my gosh. You also have to look at other sports programs. And so the article details how other sports programs like Bowling Green has cut baseball, Old Dominion has cut its wrestling program, and the financial burden schools are taking on because of the pandemic. I mean, you've heard many schools raising tuition. Boulder has not raised tuition, but the schools are going through a financial crisis right now. And if we lose college football, that is going to be huge for them. I mean, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. And so, sorry, lost my voice for a second. The loss of college football monetarily is something that we can't afford as the NCAA, as a society. I mean, many people rely on college football jobs like concession sales as a job for them. And it is crazy to think about. It's absolutely bonkers. And so Paul Rich, the director of sports business program at Washington University in St. Louis, believes that the upcoming football season will be played, even if it's during the spring, because of the astronomical financial implications for athletic departments if it's canceled. And Rich is correct. I mean, the long story short, we're gonna figure out a way. That's not a given. That's not a guarantee. Nothing is a guarantee, especially in college football, as we have seen. But if we're looking at monetarily and financially, we are going to figure out a way to have a college football season. If it is in the spring, like I said, honestly, spring might be the better option in terms of safety. It seems really weird to think about, but I mean, I would feel a lot safer if the world's in a better place in 6 months that we play college football than if we do now and risk the health of all these athletes. Because again, these are students, these are children, they're young, they're my age. Some of them are younger than me. It's just crazy to think about. And so, according to, sorry guys, you heard that little in the mic. According to the Syracuse University Newhouse School of Public Communications, public school Power 5 athletic departments on average made nearly half of their total operating revenue from football, with about 14% coming from football ticket sales alone, according to an analytic report of the 2017-2018 financial data. So think about that. 14% alone coming from football ticket sales. That doesn't account, like I said, concession sales, advertising, all that, which goes into so much more. I mean, football really is a huge part of our economy that we don't even think about, especially college football. So if there's no football season, in the fall, there has got to be a spring season. I mean, financially, for our wants, there has to be. Straight up, I want a spring college football season. I know you guys do too. That's why you are listening to this podcast right now, because you love college football just like I love college football. So how weird does that sound? Rose Bowl on Memorial Day instead of New Year's Day. I want to give a little quick story about why I love college football so much, because as you can probably tell, 35 minutes in, I'm very passionate about college football. It is a topic of mine that I don't get to debate often because most of my friends do not enjoy college football, but oh boy, am I passionate about it. And so I'm going to tell a story. I was 10 years old. I probably couldn't even do multiplication or division yet, but my grandpa sat me down on Christmas Eve, and he said, "You're going to learn college football." And I was like, "What are you talking about? I just want to watch like my Mickey Mouse movie." And he was like, "No, Danielle, your father and I, the reason we're so close is because of college football. So I'm going to teach you college football." He literally sat me down that day and we went through reruns of bowl games from the week before and we just watched college football. He taught me everything I needed to know. First down, second down, third down, what the quarters were, every little thing, what a touchdown was, what a wide receiver was, all these little things. And at 10 years old, my mind was shattered. It was open. And I truly believe that college football has brought my family together in ways that I never knew it could, because my family is close, but college football brings us together. I mean, my dad and I, when I come home from college, I come home obviously to see my family, but the thing I'm most excited for when it comes to my family is sitting on the couch with my dad and grandpa all day and watching college football. I mean, that is just, you can't replace that feeling. There's nothing like it. And so when you sit on the couch for 9 hours during the day, during winter break, watching college football, you can't think of anything else. I mean, I think of what would happen if we have a spring season. What would I do during winter break? Probably watch Netflix, I guess, but I wouldn't want to. And so I feel like I keep saying the same thing, but I want a college football season so badly. And it scares me that we're even in this position. I mean, in March, when all this was going down, I still thought I was going to go back to school. I still thought college football was going to happen, NFL was going to happen. Nothing was going to change. I mean, life was going to be back to normal by late July, early August, and it's not. And that's really scary to think about. Whew, sorry, guys. I just went on a little tangent there. And so, I mean, my grandpa cried to me over the phone yesterday because I told him I'm doing this podcast about college football, and he was like, oh my gosh, all I want is for college football to come back right now. And I said, same, Grandpa. Same. I mean, my grandpa went to the Naval Academy, and their football tradition is unlike any other. I mean, part of growing up was going to the Naval football games when they played in San Diego in a bowl game and watching them on the news. And I remember flying back my first year of college when I was a freshman to go to a Navy SDSU game. I mean, just the littlest things. I grew up with this, and I'm sure everyone listening can relate too. And I'm sure if you have kids in the car, or you have kids in general, or any young family member, you want to implement the same tradition in them because it's something unlike any other. There's nothing like college football. And I'm getting emotional now thinking about the fact that we have no college football. And so I kind of want to review some of the points I hit in this segment. So obviously, spring football. It's the other option. It is obviously we want fall football to happen. We have to look at the CDC, the world, social distancing. We have to take all that into account and understand that the option of a fall football season is not a given. Like I said, nothing is a given in college football, especially the fall season of 2020, which is just, again, mind-blowing to think about. And so Harbaugh, I agree with what Harbaugh said. COVID is a part of our society. It wasn't caused by football or caused by sports. It was part of our society. We're going to have to deal with it. I agree. Dealing with it, it sucks. It's not a fun feeling to know that you wake up and you are living through a pandemic. Believe me, I sympathize. I hear you all, but we have to deal with it. And so I honestly worry about the health and safety of these coaches. Like I said, many of them are young. Many of them are old, excuse me. Nick Saban, Mac Brown, Herm Edwards, they're all in the age demographic where if they caught coronavirus, it's scarier. And obviously rates are changing, and the age group of 20 to 29 is becoming more susceptible to coronavirus. It's rising in the percentages. But we have to take into account not the elders per se, but the older generations. And so with all that being said, excuse me guys, got a little passionate there. With all that being said, spring football, we have to think about it, and it has to happen. It's gonna be weird. I keep saying it, but it has to happen. And the loss of $4 billion to the world, I mean, that's just, that's unexcusable. That's unconceivable to think about. And I mean, I think it sucks so much that we are cutting other college programs. I look at Stanford, they are cutting their fencing program, their women's volleyball program, or their men's volleyball program, And it's just crazy to think about. We are cutting these programs that are foundational parts of colleges, and especially for small colleges. I had the pleasure of visiting Bowling Green one year when I visited Ohio to see a friend. And I remember going to a baseball game, and it was such a crucial part of their ecosystem and who they were as a school, and just it's not being there anymore. And it sucks. But the astronomical financial implications, as Patrick Reish, director of sports business program at Washington University in St. Louis, has pointed out, I mean, there's no way around it. It has to happen. It really does, you guys. I think that even thinking that there couldn't be a college football season is just implausible. Is that a word? Implausible. Journalism major over here, I guess. But the Power 5 schools, they're going to find a way to make college football happen. I mean, unless the CDC and, the government is literally like, no, you can't have a college football season, they're going to figure out a way. And we all want that. We all want there to be a way to have a college football. There's no question about that. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just a weird feeling, I guess. I hope that you guys all learned something from that segment about monetary values. I sure did. Even speaking it out loud, I kind of, in my head as I was going through it, was like, oh my gosh, college football is a big part of our economy. And I always knew that. But when you look at the numbers and you look at the statistics and you see how much as a society we rely on football revenue, it's crazy to think about. Whew. And so I hope that it does happen. Spring season, while it sounds weird, if it's our option, it's going to be our option. And with a spring season comes a college football playoff. And so coming up, I will have my college football predictions if a season happens. And not to spoil it, but you will never guess who I've left off this list, because I ran over this list with a few people and they were all a little shocked. And I will go into my detailed explanations of why I believe I am leaving 2 power conferences out of the top 4 completely. You're going to be mind blown when you hear who I have left out. I mean, maybe you won't. Everyone has their own opinions, but personally, when I told these people, they were mind blown. And so stick around.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And we are back. Did you enjoy your little break there? Let's get into my next segment. So like I said, we have the college football playoffs. And I feel like a huge part of college football talk radio is to go over my predictions. And I have predictions. Everyone has different predictions. And I have quite a list. And I ran it by some people and they were like, wow, that's either really smart or really just out there. But I have my opinions, and I'm going to showcase you why I think I have the correct opinions. So let's get into it. So my top 4 predictions. We have Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State. For Clemson, it's Trevor Lawrence's last year, presumably, before he declares the NFL draft. You have Dabo Swinney. You have that whole package. I mean, they are used to this. They're not veterans of the college football playoff. Second, I have Alabama. Nick Saban, he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. The revenge factor of not making it in last year is going to be huge for him. You have the University of Georgia, the Bulldogs. JT Daniels transferred there. And I saw JT Daniels play last year, or 2 years ago, at USC. And I believe there is so much potential for him there. And so I'm going with Georgia. And lastly, we have Ohio State. Originally, I had Michigan in this slot, which really drew people for a loop. And after doing some soul searching, some thinking, I realized that Ohio State is just better. I hate to say it, but they're so loaded on the defensive front. They're better. I'm sorry. I have to say it. Like I said earlier, big Jim Harbaugh fan, but I see them getting defeated in a very close game in their big rivalry game. And Ohio State takes the cake. So as you will notice, I left the Big 12 and the Pac-12 off this list. And why is that? Well, let's get into it. First things, nothing is a given in college football, especially, like I just said, especially during a pandemic. A lot of things could change. This list is assuming that everything is back to normal in the world. The world is normal. The world is sane. It's okay. we are living like we did last year in 2019. So let's get into it. I want to read off some percentages of making the college football playoffs. This is from 247 Sports. The Clemson Tigers have an 81.1% chance of making it, and they have the highest odds. Next up is the Ohio State Buckeyes at 63.8%. The Crimson Tide, 58.7%. The Wisconsin Badgers, 33.5%. The Georgia Bulldogs, 25.7%. LSU Tigers, 23.7%. The Penn State Nittany Lions, 23.2%. And the Oregon Ducks, 22.4%. So, as you will notice, I've left the Pac-12 and the Big 12 out of this. Let's get into it, everybody, because I know there's going to be some Pac-12 fans out there, especially Oregon Duck fans and Oklahoma fans, who are like, what the heck? Where are my teams? And first, before we get into that, let's go over their odds. So, if I was a betting woman, I guess you could say. Here are the odds. Clemson is plus 225. Ohio State plus 325. Alabama plus 425. LSU plus 950. Georgia plus 1,075. Florida, University of Florida, plus 1,300. Oklahoma plus 2,500. Auburn plus 3,250. Penn State plus 3,250. And Oregon plus 3,500. I also want to note I did not put LSU in my top 4 because Joe Burrow was gone, and just I believe that it's going to take that team a few years to rebuild after losing such a stud like Joe Burrow. But I still have faith in them, and I do believe that they will make it into a very big bowl game. Which one? You will have to stick around next week as I go over that. So, why did I leave the Pac-12 and Big 12 out of it? Let's start with the Oregon Ducks. I believe the Oregon Ducks have the most realistic option to take over Georgia or Alabama. Let's look at their starting quarterback, Tyler Slock. I have tried for so long to say his name. Tyler S. taking over for Justin Herbert, the run threat. He's a run threat option. I was looking at his game film from the 2019 spring football game, and he's a Russell Wilson type, little tinier, solid arm. He's great accuracy. I mean, his deep throws connected like bullets to his receivers, I have to say. And so he's taking over for Justin Herbert, who went to the NFL draft. And so their offense is going to struggle a little. I cannot lie. They're projected to have the second best defense. They're projected to have the second best defense in the country, according to NBC Sports. Second best. I mean, their line is stacked with studs. So, new studs, old studs all around. It's like a diamond mine out there. There are so many good players. So they're projected to have the second best defense in the country. However, their offense is projected to be 51st, as 4 out of their 5 linemen and Justin Herbert have departed. So why will they not make the top 4, you ask? They have a decent home schedule, with their toughest projected games, Arizona State and Washington at home. But when you look at Georgia, who I believe is the team they could take over, if they made it to the top 4, they would replace, they have an easier path. I mean, just realistically, the Pac-12, it is a loaded conference. While some of the teams in there are not contenders for the college football playoffs, they all put up tough games. And especially in an environment like Oregon, the weather is unpredictable. Upsets are bound to happen. It's college football. If there's not an upset this season, I mean, something went wrong. Like, the universe is out of whack and we need to, like, talk to someone. Upsets are going to happen. And so I believe that it's more likely for an Oregon upset to happen than a Georgia upset to happen. Obviously, nothing is a given. I'm not saying that Oregon will be upset and Georgia's going to be okay. No. That is not it. If you think that way, then you're not a real college football fan, because you have to understand upsets are literally a part of the game. And, I mean, I would love to put the Pac-12 in here. I really would. As someone who goes to a Pac-12 school, I mean, obviously, no offense to my beloved Buffs, but we aren't making the college football playoffs this year. Love to you all, but we are nowhere near Oregon. And I would love to put a Pac-12 representative in there. And Oregon, they could. I'm not saying they're not going to, because, again, nothing is a given in college football. But let's be realistic here. I'm just looking at the facts. I mean, Clemson, 81.1% chance. I mean, Clemson's not a given, but they're kind of close to a given. Ohio State, they're just so loaded on the defensive front. I mean, they want that title so badly. They're going to fight so hard. And so, I mean, Ohio State and Clemson are kind of the two teams that I'm like, all right, I can't see Oregon or my other team. I assume you can guess who my other team is. Excuse me. I will have to cut that out. But I cannot see my other team taking over and uprooting Clemson or Ohio State. Georgia and Alabama, however, obviously Alabama just lost to their star quarterback. They lost him earlier in the season than they thought. Last year, due to a hip injury, he came back, had a great season, but they just lost Tua, and it's Alabama. They have someone in the works, but the revenge factor there is what puts them in the slot over Oregon and my other team, just because it's Saban. Nick Saban is built to win. They are a dynasty over there. We're going to look back at the reign of Alabama football during the 2010s and say, wow. I mean, wow, did they dominate? And some of it has to do with the conference and their opponents, but they dominated. And so that puts them in. And then Georgia, I have so much hope for JT Daniel. I really think with Kirby Smart, I really think that they have a chance to just take their offense to another level. Plus, Kirby Smart, his defense has always been so rooted in the grounds, in the niches, and they're so strong up front that there's no way. Obviously, there's not no way, but they are built defensively, and they are a tough team, and I believe they can overcome a lot. And so, with that being said, Oregon, you will be in a big game, but I do not see you making the top four. Love to all you Duck fans out there. Let's get on to my other team. So, as I mentioned, I left the Big 12 out, and I think you can guess who my Big 12 team I'm leaving out is. It's Texas. No, it is not Texas. I'm so sorry to say. Go Longhorns, one of my best friends goes there. But no, I'm leaving out Oklahoma. University of Oklahoma. I've grown up rooting for this team, mostly because my tennis coach played tennis at Oklahoma, so he's a big Sooner guy. So when I was looking at colleges, he was really pushing Oklahoma for me. You guys don't care about my personal life, though. Let's get on to football. So it is Lincoln Riley's third year as a head coach. He's fully comfortable with the system. His players are comfortable. He's established his footing there. First year, I mean, they've been successful all years he's been there, but this is his third year. I mean, he knows Oklahoma. He is a Sooner coach. They lost Jalen Hurts to the NFL draft, obviously, but he was replaced with Spencer Rattle, who was already one of the favorites for the Heismans, and he made the all Big 12 preseason team. So they have a good quarterback game. I mean, looking at his game stats from high school, he's a stud. I mean, stay tuned for next week when I go a little more into that, so I will not spoil anything for you guys. But he's a stud. Let's put it that way. They have home games against their rivals, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, and Baylor. And these are their biggest home games, I would say. And when I think of upsets, I can definitely see an upset there, specifically with Oklahoma State. You didn't hear it from me, though. Maybe you did. Who knows? I don't know what that voice was. I will stop, because you're probably annoyed. But, yeah, so I see an upset with one of these teams. Again, nothing is a given. I feel like I should get that tattooed on me. Or, I should get that branded on me. Nothing is a given in college football. Nothing is given in life, but college football specifically. Anyways, they're an offensive team. This is known about the Big 12. I mean, air raid offenses galore. They are not a defensive-minded team, to put it lightly. And Riley has the offensive weapons in Rattler and running backs Brennan Claypool and Denzel Williams. However, it comes down to the same argument every single year. They're going to give up a ton of points to teams like Texas Tech, UT Austin, Iowa State, I mean, you name it. TCU, these teams are not built for defense. They are a offensive-minded conference. And Oklahoma, I mean, there's nothing wrong with falling into that category. It's a very exciting game. Will they be able to hold their ground, though, and not let an upset derail them? The thing in college football is one loss really changes everything for you. It really just, I don't know how to say it, just really makes your whole situation just, wow, go berserk. And so 2 upsets, I mean, I don't want to say it's a given that you're out of the playoffs, but it's really hard to come back from that. And so I sense 2 upsets from them that could knock them out of the playoffs. And stay tuned for a season preview coming up in a few weeks. So I will not give that away per se. But yeah, that's all I can say is that I sense 2 upsets. And I mean, I just don't think that Oklahoma can withstand an upset culture. Is that a thing? Cancel culture, but upset culture? I guess it's a thing. I mean, if we want to make it a thing, hashtag upset culture. I can't believe I just said that. I'm so sorry to anyone listening. Yeah, so Oklahoma, I don't see overtaking schools like Clemson, Ohio State. I keep saying this, but the upsets are what really comes to mind. For Oregon, it was similar. The upsets, I mean, you have to withstand your ground, and I don't know if I specifically see that. So, with all that being said, let's go over everything as we do at the end of every segment. Let's give a brief recap on what I just said to you ad nauseum. So let's go over the odds again. Clemson plus 225, Ohio State plus 325, Alabama plus 425, Georgia 1075, Oklahoma 250, 2500, sorry, Oregon 3500. There are other odds, obviously. Those are the main odds. And so, if you're a betting man, place your bets as you will. This is all also assuming that we have a normal college football season, which is something I literally just spent 20 minutes before this talking about. So, nothing is a given, like I keep saying, but nothing is a given. And so, I want to go for my playoff prediction one more time. Really ingrain this into you, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Please tweet me, comment on our Instagram, do what you will. I really want to hear your thoughts on all of this. So, for Clemson, Trevor Lawrence, Dabo, really the whole package. I mean, Clemson feels like the most built team. And again, I will get into this in a few weeks with a season preview. But they really seem like the most well-rounded, well-versed, built team. And then we have Alabama, revenge factor. I mean, that's all I can say when I think of the reason I'm putting Alabama in. Obviously, that's not all I can say. Obviously, they have they are a factory of talent. I mean, is factory the right word? They are a power. What's the right word here, people? They just have a ton of talent. Talent galore. I mean, it's like walking into an Oscars party, but for football, when you go into an Alabama football game and you're looking at the players. And so, also trust in Nick Saban. He has, who knows when he will retire, but I think he wants to get a few more titles out of them. And yeah, so the Crimson Tide are going to be in. Georgia, JT Daniels, I mean, defensive team galore. And Ohio State. I mean, Ohio State really just defensively and offensively, they have the whole shebang. Oh, excuse me, guys. So, where do we go from here? I mean, what do we do that college football is up in the air? We have these playoff predictions. I mean, what can we do if, say, I don't know, Penn State makes it into Ohio State? I mean, what is your dream matchup? Because I know my dream matchup. I would love to see Ohio State versus Clemson, round 1. I think that would be the pinnacle of stellar college football. I think that when you were looking at Ohio State and Clemson, those are 2 powerhouses. And I would love nothing more than to watch that on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve or the day after New Year's Day, January 2nd. I forgot my months there for a second, people. Ooh. And then Alabama and Georgia. I think they're going to play in the SEC title game. So this would be a revenge game for them if they do play in the SEC title game, which, say it with me, guys, nothing is a given in college football. Gosh, I feel so annoying for saying that. But those would be such great matchups. But let's look at the other teams that I read through with their percentages. What would be some fun matchups you would love to see? Wisconsin, LSU. Defense, offense. Straight up. Wisconsin is known for their offense. Fun fact about me, guys, Wisconsin was my dream school. Go Badgers. Still root for them. They rejected me. Offense, defense. I love those matchups. I mean, really, it's putting strength against strength. Who will come out on top? Oregon, Penn State could be pretty fun. Not gonna lie. I mean, I'm just looking at Tyler S. I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce his last name for Oregon. And I mean, I want to see that guy play. Now I want a college football season. I just want to see these quarterbacks. Oh my gosh. Tyler and Rattler, wow, guys. Okay, now we need a college football season. Now I am hyped up for a college football season. Ooh, you got me fired up here. So, with all that being said, what do you guys think? I want to hear what your predictions are. I want to hear who you have in the title games. Let me know. Slide into our social media, please, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I want to hear. Debate me. I would love to debate people on this because nothing is a given. And if you truly have an argument that I'm like, wow, props to you, I might shout you out on the podcast. But with all that being said, practice social distancing because I really want a college football playoffs. I'm literally pounding my desk chair I am sitting at in my childhood bedroom because I want a college football playoff, you guys. Gosh, I want to sit on my couch on New Year's Day, veg out. My family has a tradition of always making pretzels, and I just want to veg out and watch college football. You hear me? So do what you got to do because I want college football. Whew, I got fired up again, you guys. I'm looking at my recording system and like the mic levels are spiking right now. I'm very energized. But what did you think? What did you think of my top four? My top four, is it along the lines of what you're thinking? Do you have a completely different top four? Maybe you left out a whole conference in itself that I didn't include. Maybe you think 2 Big 12 teams are going to make it. Maybe you think 2 Pac-12 teams are going to make it. Please let me know. And with all that being said, stay tuned because in our next segment, I'm going to be going over the top 10 list. And this week's top 10 list is a fun one, you guys. It is top 10 concession foods that are overrated and what I would replace them with. We love talking food here. I'm a big foodie, you guys. Concession foods, I love concession foods. You guys are going to want to stay tuned for this one, especially when you hear my number one option. Ooh, that one caused a lot of controversy in my household. Anyways, stay tuned.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
We are back, everybody, for our final segment, which is a top 10 list, and not just any top 10 list. We're debating concession foods. I wish I had a little jingle for that because that, imagine like a little jingle there. Oh, I'm watching the audio level spike. I'm so sorry to anyone listening with headphones on right now. Let's get into top 10 concession foods. I live for concession foods, you guys. I mean, when I was younger and I didn't understand football, the reason I would go to college football games is because of the concession foods. I'm not kidding you. I mean, wow. I'm looking at my list right now. I'm getting fired up. Let's go, everybody. Starting with number 10. Number 10, little controversy. I also want to say I ran this list past my boyfriend, and he agrees with none of it. So it's a little controversial, I have to say. But, I mean, it's concession foods. You can debate it all for hours. So let's go. Number 10. This this is the best option. On a hot day, it's nice. It's such a great fruit to have. I mean, the thought of it right now, even as I look outside my window at 10:52, sounds so nice. Ice cream, a nice ice cream cone, McDonald's ice cream, Dairy Queen, whatever you grew up with. I'm thinking like vanilla ice cream with sprinkles. How good does that sound? But it's so sticky and it melts in literally 2 seconds. I mean, it's not fun to deal with. It gets all over your hands. It's just disgusting. I would replace that personally with a milkshake. You just drink it, you get the same flavor, same taste, but none of the hassle. I mean, none of the hassle, people. Number 9, popsicles. I mean, who doesn't love a good popsicle? I used to go to summer camp and they would feed us popsicles every night. And when I was 10 years old, that was my dream, getting a popsicle at the end of the night. But similar to ice cream, it's only slightly worse in my opinion. That's why it's one tier up above ice cream. Ice cream is the least bad, I have to say. We're going best to worst here. So if ice cream is number 10, it's still a good option. Honestly, would probably still get it. But I'm just saying, if it was a milkshake, it'd be a lot better. So number 9 is a popsicle. It's similar to ice cream. It's only slightly worse because of the limited range where you can hold it. You just have that, I wish you guys could see. You have like that tiny little stick. I'm literally doing hand motions right now to like imitate it. You have that tiny little stick and it usually flies all over you. If you haven't been hit with like wet popsicle juice in your time as a kid, like you were a lucky one, because I have distinct memories of getting that in my eyes. Popsicle. What would I replace it with? I would replace it with a snow cone. I love snow cones. If anyone knows what Kona Ice is, my high school used to literally deliver Kona Ice to us in the fall as like rewards if we were good, I guess. I love snow cones. I love when it's like just the snow and then you can put your own flavors on. Oh my gosh, there was a place in San Diego that did that. I think it was the beach. This one beach had like a snow cone shack and it was the best. So now I want a snow cone, you guys. Number 8. Oh, I also want to say that I'm sorry if I make anyone hungry during this because I'm currently making myself very hungry thinking about this list and all these foods. And I just want to say I love all the foods on this list. I'm not saying that these foods are nasty. I'm just saying they're good, but what can make them better? You know? For example, number 8, a burger. So basic. It's not made super well, I have to say. It's a little messy usually. I love burgers. But you can get a burger anywhere. When I'm going to a football game, I want something a little unique. I want something that screams like CU Bus Stadium. I want something I can only get there. I, personally, would replace it with a cheesesteak sandwich. How good does that sound, you guys? How good does a cheesesteak sandwich sound at a football game? The melty cheese, the steak, maybe get some fries on the side. Ooh, that is so much more exciting than a burger. Number 7, this one, super controversial. I mean, when I told my boyfriend about this, he literally almost hung up the phone on me. He was so upset that I had this here. However, I talked to a few other people and they agree with me. Number 7, ladies and gentlemen, is hot dogs. A staple of sports. I mean, baseball games, football games, basketball, hockey. The core 4 has hot dogs. And don't get me wrong, I love a good hot dog at a sports event. I mean, some of my favorite memories are going to baseball games when I was younger and getting a hot dog. It's truly the best. But here's the sad reality of hot dogs. Cheap, a little basic in all honesty. I mean, like really, you get mustard, ketchup, and relish on there? Like what else can you do? And you can get them anywhere. What is so different about a hot dog that you get at a baseball stadium versus your local Target? Let's be honest here. I would replace that with an Italian sausage. Juicy, so much flavor, so much more filling as well. A little more nutritious, in all honesty. Way more protein, just different. You can't get an Italian sausage everywhere. You can get a hot dog anywhere. When in your life have you ever just been at anywhere and you've had the option of Italian sausage and a hot dog and said, I want to go with the $2 hot dog that I can get anywhere? You want Italian sausage on a nice bun with some pickles. I love bread and butter pickles. Maybe some bread and butter pickles, caramelized onions maybe. Ooh, now we are talking. So yes, number 7 is a hot dog. I love them. Don't get me wrong, but Italian sausages, a little better. Just like umpa. That means a little in French. I took French in high school. I act like I'm fluent in French. I'm not. Number 6, this one also caused so much controversy. I mean, I didn't realize the debate that would be sparked over this one. A giant pickle. I love pickles, you guys. Pickles, it's either those foods you love or you hate, you know? I mean, so many people either love them or hate them. I love pickles. However, at a football game, I don't want the person next to me eating a giant pickle. That just sounds gross to me on a hot day. Eating a giant, I guess there's sodium in it, so like your salt could be replaced if you're sweating. But one time, I was at a CU game. I was a little freshman, a little baby freshman, I guess you could say. I was with my friends. The guy next to me, this big senior, he was so intimidating, you guys. He was double fisting pickles. So he was eating one, eating the other. I mean, they looked like drumsticks, literally. And the juice was going everywhere, all over me. Because the way he was standing, the bag was, like, tilting onto me. So my little freshman self was traumatized because I got pickle juice all over me. And I had to walk back to my freshman dorm smelling like pickle juice. You realize how traumatizing that is for a little kid to smell like pickle juice? So no. I love pickles, but no. I would replace them with, and this caused controversy. I would replace them with a giant turkey leg. Now, hear me out. Protein filling. How nice does that sound? When you're at a football game or any sporting event, I get hungry. I mean, part of the fun of the event is the food. And I don't want to constantly get up to get different food. A turkey leg is so filling. So much protein. If you're following a low-carb diet, it's low-carb. There's so many options with it. It's so flavorful. You can get different flavors. Parmesan, rosemary, garlic, the list goes on and on. It's filling, it's nutritious. You also kind of look kind of cool. I mean, you could look kind of gross from some other people's perspective, but I think a turkey leg's kind of a cool snack to have. Now, as my boyfriend pointed out, how do you throw away the turkey leg? This is a good point he brought up that I did not think about, so I have to bring this up just so I can acknowledge my own faults, acknowledge what I missed when making this list. Throwing away the turkey leg is kind of gross. I'm not going to lie. If you don't like turkey, if you're a vegan, if you don't like meat in general, the smell of a turkey leg is probably not your favorite. But it is better than a pickle. So that's why it is number 6. Whew, you guys, we're in the top 5. The top 5 is a little controversial here as well. Number 5 is popcorn. It's so bland, you guys. I mean, you can get popcorn literally anywhere. The movie theater, wherever you want. I mean, why do you need to get it at a football game? My dad loves his popcorn. But do you know what he loves more? Kettle corn, which is what we are replacing this with. Kettle corn over popcorn at a football game. There, I said it, kettle corn is better in my opinion. I love popcorn, but you don't get kettle corn all the time. And when you get that big bag of kettle corn that's probably the size of one of your legs in length, and it's just $10, it's the best, so satisfying, salty, little sweet, fills you up. I mean, wow. It is messy though, so I have to say, it is messy, which is why it is not higher on the list because the messiness of it really just overtakes it. But kettle corn over popcorn, literally any day. Number 4. This one, I mean, I feel like all of them spark controversy, but this one, this one really, I mean, wow. I mean, I told multiple people about this one, and they all said no. Cotton candy at number 4. Hear me out, okay? Before you go making assumptions about my list that I don't have food taste, that I don't know what I'm talking about, because I feel like a lot of these are going to be controversial, and a lot of you guys are going to sit here and be like, wow, this girl has no taste in her food. You're right. I don't have the same taste as you. We all have different food glands. Is that what it's called? Taste buds, not food glands. I don't know why I thought food glands was the word. We all have different satisfactions. We all have different things we like. So there's literally nothing wrong with my list because it is my list. And so when you come at me saying, how could you disrespect cotton candy in this way by putting it so high on the list of foods you would replace at a game, please know I have traumatic experience with cotton candy. I was 5 years old. I was at a state fair, everybody. I had a piece of cotton candy. It got stuck in my hair. My hair was wet from sweat. I got cotton candy stuck in my hair all day. It took 3 showers to get that thing out. Ever since then, I acknowledge it's incredibly tasty. It's all sugar. I mean, how could it not be tasty? But the texture of it, the taste, it really just does not do it for me. And so, cotton candy is number 4 on this list because it's just a meh. Really, meh is the only way to describe it. There's no flavor about it that I'm like, wow, I need that in my life. I want this cotton candy right now. No, there's not. But it's sticky as well. I mean, when it's hot out and it's sticky, I don't want that in my life. I really just don't need that cotton candy. And so I would replace it with, and I just want to preface this by saying, I know in my heart of hearts that this contradicts what I previously said, an ice cream sandwich. I would replace cotton candy with an ice cream sandwich. One of those classic, out of the package, Toll House, chocolate chip cookie with the vanilla ice cream. Oh my gosh, my childhood right there, you guys. I would replace it with one of those. And again, before you say, what the heck? You had ice cream on this list. Ice cream sandwich is no different. It is. And let me tell you why. You have the cookies as a nice little holding ground. I wish you guys could see the hand motions I'm making right now, because if anyone walked in my room, they would probably think I'm a lunatic for the way I'm describing an ice cream cookie sandwich with my hands. You have the two sandwiches. You can't see my hands. You have the two sandwiches, and then you have the ice cream in the middle. It is the perfect vehicle. It's literally a sandwich, you guys. And yes, the ice cream will melt. I am fully aware the ice cream will melt, which is why I had ice cream on this list to begin with. But you get a nice cardboard box, you get a spoon, and it's great. The ice cream can melt into there, and you can eat it with a spoon. I also want to point out, it's a very easy sharing food. Not many of these foods on here you can share. If you're with a significant other, or your family, or a friend, and you both say you're not in the mood for a full sandwich, but you want to split one, it's perfect. Cut it right in half. You are good to go, people. I know it contradicts my previous statement. Please, I'm fully aware of the hate and slander and comments I'm going to get for this list. Just know these are my opinions, everybody. But some of my opinions are correct on this list. That's all I'm going to say. Number 3. Let me clear my throat for this one. Any sort of plain sandwich. Now, I don't know what part of the region you guys are from, but at Boulder games, they will serve like Jersey Mike's or, what is the name of that other sandwich place? Oh my gosh. I forget. Oh my god, this is going to destroy me. They will basically serve plain sandwiches like ham and cheese, basically a Subway version of sandwiches that you could get anywhere else. And I just say no. I'm at a football game. Give me excitement. Give me something I can't make in my little apartment. I want a turkey leg or an ice cream sandwich or a snow cone. Literally give me anything different than what I can make at my house or buy on the street. So I would replace this with a giant soft pretzel. You guys, giant soft pretzels are the way to go. When I think of a delicious sports snack, a giant soft pretzel with mustard or even honey mustard. Oh, now we are talking. That is the epitome of a good snack. That would be number 1 on my top 10 concession foods. But these are top 10 concession foods we are replacing and that are overrated. So it's number 3 because honestly, literally anything is better than a plain sandwich. And I just wanted to put soft pretzel on this list because it is so good. I mean, that saltiness, the warmness you get with it, how it's like kind of crunchy in some areas. Oh, does wonders to you. The best. If you've not had the pleasure of experiencing a soft pretzel in your life, I feel so sorry for you. I really wish you nothing but happiness in the world, but you really need to change that right now. Oh, number 2. Any sort of salad / anything healthy. Now, I admit, I'm going to tell you guys something weird about me. I love kale. Like the green kale. I love kale. It is probably one of my favorite foods of all time. But at a football game, I don't want a kale salad. I literally remember seeing someone at a football game holding a head of broccoli and dipping it in mustard one time. And that made me sad. I was like, you are at a football game. Why would you want something healthy? I understand if you're on a diet. I understand if you have health restrictions. I'm not putting those down at all. I'm literally just saying that if you are at a football game, a college football game to be specific, don't go for the head of broccoli. Don't go for the salad. Don't go for the carrot sticks. Go for the burger or the hot dog. Literally. That's why I'm replacing it with legit anything. Literally anything else you can replace it with. Again, I understand health issues. I understand if you have a reason you have to eat your head of broccoli at a Nebraska game. I understand that. However, I'm just saying that if you don't have to, enjoy yourself. Part of the fun of college football is the lemonade that you get from the concession guy walking down the aisle. It's the pretzel. It's the hot dog. I'm making rainbow arms. I probably look like a lunatic if anyone walked in. But I'm just so excited to let you guys know that part of the fun of a football game is the concession foods. Hear me out. So, now that I've told you not to eat anything healthy at a football game, let's get into my number one. Let's review this list before we go into my number one. Number 10, ice cream. Replace it with a milkshake. Number 9, a popsicle. Replace it with a snow cone. Number 8, a burger. Replace it with a cheesesteak sandwich. Number 7, hot dog. Replace it with an Italian sausage. Number 6, a giant pickle. Just now. Replace it with a giant turkey leg. Number 5, popcorn. It's so bland. Replace it with kettle corn. Number 4, cotton candy. Replace it with an ice cream sandwich. And I have to say, I know this contradicts me. Number 3, any sort of plain sandwich. Replace this with a giant soft pretzel. Number 2, any sort of salad / anything healthy. Replace this with literally anything. And number 1, nachos. This caused a 10-minute argument when I told my boyfriend about this. 10 minutes. So messy. So gross in my opinion. I love nachos. When I think of nachos, I think of the gourmet ones with the 5 layers and all this stuff. What nachos I'm talking about are the ones with the round chips and the cheese, that melty cheese. Oh my gosh. And I have a vendetta against this because when I was at a Stanford game when I was 9 years old with my sister, she got nachos and spilled them all over me. So I was covered in sticky hot cheese for hours. I don't enjoy nachos. They're delicious, don't get me wrong, but they're just so sticky and they're a no. Yeah, so I would replace those with actual nachos. And you're probably thinking, what football game has actual nachos? I'm sure a lot of them do. Okay, I'm just saying that nachos are so messy and so overrated. They also have that smell to them. They just have a very chemically smell that I don't want to smell for 30 minutes when the person next to me is eating them and their hands are covered in cheese and their lips are messy. I mean, gosh, they're not a clean food to eat either. I really feel like as a society, we've progressed so much when it comes to our food. And why do we still have these kind of nachos at games? I mean, I could literally think of a billion other things I would want at that game besides nachos. I mean, let's think here, guys. I would rather have a hot dog or a burger than nachos. Just so messy. Just wrong. I'm sorry. It's wrong. It's wrong. So, there you have it, guys. That's my top 10 list. It's controversial. It's saucy. It's spicy. It's probably going to get some debate. I mean, I sent it to multiple people in my life, and they all disagreed with me on at least 3 things. So I'm sure all of you listening have your own disagreements on this. And I want to hear you guys. Please reach out on our social media and let me know what you think. Why do you love nachos so much? Why am I wrong about nachos? Please, I want to hear. Tell me why you love eating heads of broccoli at a football game. I want to know. Is popcorn better than kettle corn? Share your opinion. Do you think ice cream is the perfect thing for a hot football game? Maybe it is. Maybe I just have a personal vendetta against ice cream, but this is my top 10 list, you guys. Top 10 overrated concession foods and what I would replace them with. Because obviously, this is my own top 10 list, you guys. This is my own opinions. Just want to say that one more time. I'm not saying that ice cream is disgusting or I don't love hot dogs. I love all these foods on this list. I literally love all these foods. It was incredibly hard to make this list. Because the entire time I was like, no, that sounds kind of nice actually. But then I was like, does it actually? I had to like psychoanalyze my own thoughts about this list. So anyways, you guys, thank you for tuning in today. I hope you all enjoyed this podcast. We went over monetary values of college football spring season even. We went over my top 4 list of the college football playoff predictions, which definitely has some controversy. All I'm going to say. I'm going to go over our outline. See if there's anything I missed here for you guys. My most overrated concession foods. I personally had a ton of fun thinking of that list. I really hope you guys enjoyed that list. I got so passionate about it. I don't know if you could tell. I need some water after this. But yeah, I just want to say thank you guys so much for listening to the show today. Your support means so much to me and the GSMC podcast network. Whew. Guys, I'm like getting flustered here for a second. So yes, I just want to say thank you guys for listening today. I really hope you enjoyed the show. I had so much fun recording it. I just want to say, as you can tell, I'm very passionate about college football, and it feels very nice to have a platform where I can express that. Again, let me know what you guys think about my opinions. Am I wrong about the top 4? Excuse me, I just drank some water. Am I wrong about my top 4? Am I incorrect about my top 10? What do you think about spring football? Do you want spring football? I mean, I don't know. Spring football seems interesting. I think that if it did happen, it would be a really weird change, and I feel like our entire seasons would be kind of uplifted and rerouted, and I think college would feel so much weirder than it does. But, I mean, that comes with coronavirus, and just some reminders. Please stay safe. Please stay healthy. Practice social distancing. Wear a mask. Physical health is so important right now. Mental health is important as well. Please just remember that life is not normal right now. We are not in a normal state. I'm sure literally every podcast you listen to has told you this, but I just want to remind you that it's okay to be uncertain about the future. I don't know what my future holds. I don't even know what I'm eating for breakfast after this. Just know that the uncertainty we are feeling in life right now is okay. We are literally living through a pandemic. I mean, who would have thought we would have lived through a pandemic? I was thinking about that, and I was like, the 20th century really lived through a lot of things, and over here, my naive self was like, that's not going to happen in the 21st century. And it did. So we just have to remember that, and also know that stay safe so college football can happen, everybody. We all want college football. We all do. It is, I need it, guys, especially if I'm going to be at home for the semester. I really need college football in my life for those Saturdays, those dull Saturdays in my life. So please stay safe out there. Let me know, what are you guys doing during quarantine? Are you still in quarantine? Are you still in lockdown? Have you seen people? What is your favorite quarantine go-to TV show right now? I've been watching a ton of SportsCenter, which is kind of ironic because there's not many sports going on, but I've been watching a lot of that. I've been watching so many reruns of college football games on ESPNU when I work out. Really recommend those if you're missing college football. I recommend turning off your Netflix show and listening to podcasts, whether it's a sports podcast like the GSMC podcast network or an educational podcast. I really just recommend taking time for yourself and being safe, being healthy. That's really what matters here. And also, like I keep saying, let me know your opinions. I really want to hear from you guys. I really want to hear what you thought. Am I leaving out the wrong teams on my top 4 list? Please let me know. Please let me know. And I mean, what do you think is going to happen with football? Realistically, what do you think? Because we can talk about this for hours. We could say, well, this could happen and this could happen. If spring football happens, then this happens. But do we think it's going to happen? I mean, we can hope. I have hope. I have so much hope in the world that we will somehow have a college football season. But do we think it's going to happen is the scary thing. And sitting back and really analyzing it and thinking, are we going to have college football? Am I going to wake up on Saturdays, drink my cup of coffee, watch College Game Day, and think, okay, let's get the day going? I mean, I want football so badly. I mean, I want to jump on here twice a week and talk football with you guys for hours. That's what I want. And I want to sit down and watch an LSU-Alabama game on Saturday night on CBS. It's what I want. It's what I need. And in all honesty, I mean, we all want it in the world right now. It's a really scary place and time. And I really hope you guys, like I keep saying, I feel like I'm just keep saying this. Please stay safe out there. Traveling, necessary traveling, I guess. We don't have to get too much into that because this is not the time and place to discuss what's going on in the world right now. We are a college football podcast on the GSMC podcast network. And yes, I really just want to say thank you guys for listening. This is my first show, and I think it went well. It was definitely a little nerve-wracking at first when I first got on, and I was like, oh my gosh, 90 minutes. But it went by really smooth. I felt like I was just talking to some pals about college football and did a little monologue, and it was really enjoyable, and I really hope I get to do it again, maybe twice a week. We'll see. But yes. I am going over my outline one more time just to make sure I did not miss anything for you guys. And I don't think I did. I'm patting myself on the back for that one because I was definitely nervous about missing key points. But I did not. Let me know. What is your favorite college football memory? I feel like I talked so much about my favorite memories from college football and what I love, what I enjoy, but what's yours? Let us know on our social media. I really want to hear, when was the first time you knew you loved college football? What is the first bowl game you watched? Who is your team? Who do you root for? I would love to know these little things. Just get to know you guys more. Make me feel like I'm talking to some friends about this, not just my computer and my childhood bedroom, but yes. Thank you guys so much for listening today, and thank you for listening to the GSMC College Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to our show and write a nice review. That really helps us. Also, if you could please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you, and have a good night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts College Football Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From football to basketball, baseball to MMA, and even soccer. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts College Football Podcast.